Hey millionaire! It's likely that you're watching this because you often daydream about winning a huge lottery jackpot. You won't become wealthy even if that dream comes true. Without a doubt, briefly, you'll be rich. Yet on the off chance that you investigate the insights, most lottery victors blow their money. And some of them end up considerably more unfortunate than they were before they got their large success. Although that is the cold, hard truth, it is not what lottery fans want to hear. In any case, it doesn't need to be like that. The fact that you can actually make use of a lottery win is demonstrated by this list of winners. While different victors were spending their millions, these champs were being shrewd, and on account of their smart way to deal with being north of 9 tycoons, they're as yet rich today. Hopefully they act as a genuine guide to you. Assuming you at any point win, couldn't being rich until the end of your life be perfect? We should investigate how they got it done. Brad Duke in 2005. Brad Duke was a 33-year-old health specialist working in Idaho. He played the lottery a lot, but you can bet he didn't know that his lucky day had come when the $220 million Powerball jackpot changed his life. Brad didn't have the foggiest idea about that. He halted for gas, really looked at his ticket, and was stunned by the representative's response. He'd won. Before the clerk could even tell Brad that he had won the jackpot, he grabbed the ticket because he wasn't sure how to react. Brad went through the following couple of days thinking he'd just won $2,000 or $3,000. Envision his shock when he at long last figured out he was really a mogul. Except for his father, Brad didn't tell anyone about his good fortune. Together, they sat and arranged how to manage the cash, while Brad continued carrying on with his life and going to work like nothing had changed. Brad brought back home $74 million after charges and put forth an objective to develop his abundance to $1 billion inside the following 15 years. He set up a group of legal counselors and monetary consultants to guarantee he didn't blow his opportunity as he arrived at his $1 billion objective. Well, not precisely tragically, a portion of his large early speculations turned sour when the 2008 monetary emergency hit. Yet, even with his disaster, he's certainly not broke. In 2016, he's assessed he's additional $100 million to his fortune throughout the long term. That is really great, and he additionally involved his cash for good by beginning the Duke establishment, which has raised around $1,000 for occupants of Idaho. And he did this all while as yet going about his typical business for quite a long time. Peter Lavery. In 1996, Peter Lavery was filling in. As a transport driver in Ireland, he was procuring what could be compared to just a $300 check. Yet fortunately, he actually tracked down the cash to play the UK public lottery. Sometimes he never pursued a preferable choice over buying that ticket. It was the victor of a tremendous bonanza worth 10.2 million English pounds. That is around 12.5 million bucks. And on the off chance that you don't know, lottery champs in the UK aren't expected to pay charge on their rewards. That implies he brought back home each penny that he won. That was a colossal amount of cash back in 1996. And Peter knew precisely exact thing he needed to do with it. Didn't take him long to put resources into bourbon. He portrayed it as an inclination, like he'd scored that sweepstakes once more. He went into an organization with Cooley Bourbon Refinery to deliver the all-around surveyed Danny Kidd mixed Irish bourbon brand. That was his main venture. However, he made a ton of not excessively enormous interests in a wide range of organizations, and furthermore began purchasing property and land improvements in Northern Ireland. He possesses a great 30 properties with the cash he was making. He additionally began engaging in a rising number of nearby causes, including the Northern Ireland Kids Hospice and his own establishment, which he named after his folks. Yet, how much cash has he truly procured out of his lottery rewards? You'll be dazzled that he's truly prevailed with regards to significantly increasing his rewards throughout the course of recent many years. Yet he ventured down from his whiskey business as of late. Les Robbins, in 1993, was filling in as a substitute educator. Circumstances were difficult. However, he was just procuring $20,000 for every semester. He enjoyed working with the children, but even for a job he enjoyed, that's not a great salary. But soon it wouldn't matter. Les had a Powerball ticket that won the jackpot. You can barely comprehend how he felt when he learned he'd won the greatest bonanza the US had at any point seen at that point. He split his rewards with the one who was his fiancée at that point. They've separated since. However, that doesn't make any difference. Les actually has huge load of cash, and he expected to resolve how to manage it. He needed to accomplish something he was enthusiastic about, and he cherished working with kids, such a lot of that it appeared like an easy decision. He established Camp Winnegator. It's a fantasy day camp for youngsters spread across 226 sections of land. Les added all that he could imagine to his camp: a pool, a rec center, a smaller than usual green, and even pony sources that the children could ride. And that was essentially all he spent his weddings on. I surmise, in the event that you have your fantasy, you don't actually require anything more, he got himself a Jeep, yet with all that cash that buy appears to be unassuming yet. Where is he currently? Well, beside an issue with the organization entrusted with overseeing annuity installments that prompted a legal dispute that Les won. He's been staying under the radar. He returned to being a substitute educator back in 2000s when he was extended to a drawn-out employment opportunity, yet it seems as though he did that since he needed to, not on the grounds that he expected to at the time. His camp was all the while working at full limit most days. A few sources say it shut as of late. However, others say it's actually going Deanna Simpson. Deanna Simpson was filling in as a stylist in Sheffield, Britain, before she scored that sweepstakes. She didn't have a perfect life. Cash was truly attached to her family. And at one time, Diana had under $15 in her financial balance. She also tried to be there for her very close brother, who had a severe disability, but she couldn't have saved him. Tragically, he died because of an epileptic fit when he was only 40 years of age. Deanna was crushed. However, with so minimal expenditure, she lacked opportunity and willpower to lament how she would have preferred. She had a pretty low mood. She went to sleep when she said something incredible had happened. She had an amazing dream one night while she was in a deep depression. Her late brother came to her and told her that if she bought a lottery ticket for the next draw, she would win the jackpot. He even told her exactly which numbers to play. When she woke up, she decided to listen to what her late brother had told her. Maybe it was just a dream, but she had nothing to lose by listening. She was a regular lottery player who always used the same numbers, but this time she used the new numbers that is over $6.6 million. One of the smart people was Deanna. She put her lottery rewards into property throughout the following 20 years, and she even began her own property business with her child. She said she invested a few on extravagances. However, generally she cherished having the option to spoil her folks before their demises. Deanna thought that was important because her parents had worked very hard all their lives but never made much money. In mid-2020, she's currently assisting with preparing handicap help canines with a neighborhood noble cause called Help Canines. She says it's a nearby thing to her heart, in light of the fact that the canines are prepared to assist with peopling like her sibling. She has a house with a garden, big enough to train puppies, who will later want to help people with disabilities, thanks to the money she won from the lottery. Neil Wandless, bringing in cash as a cowpoke can be quite extreme nowadays. 23-year-old Neil Wandless was battling to cover his bills back in 2009, that is to say, until one day when he went to get things done in a close-by town called Champ. While he was there, he chose to get a Powerball ticket. It turned out that the name of the town meant well for Neil. He involved the birthday celebrations of his relatives as his triumphant numbers. Yet despite the fact that he was kidding about winning, he had no clue he truly was holding the big stake ticket. And it sure was the ideal opportunity to win the Powerball bonanza, since it had turned over to a crazy measure of money when Neil awakened and checked the lottery numbers. When he found out that he was the sole winner of the $232 million jackpot, it shocked him. He was so shocked that it took him a month to get his winnings. But maybe that paid off. Neil and his family were arranging the arrangement with their unexpected abundance. However, dissimilar to most lottery victors, Neil cared very little about leaving his place of employment. He cherished what he'd die. Dean concluded he'd put his lottery rewards once more into his work. The principal thing he did subsequent to gathering the cash was to get the family a superior farm, so he purchased 23 square miles of land worth $9.9 million. He likewise got himself a house, which was a major redesign on the trailer he'd been residing in since the bank repossessed his family home. He utilized a greater amount of his money to help his town in a wide range of liberal ways. After that, he completely disappeared from view, declining to do meetings to attempt to keep up with his security. That is until he chosen to sell his farm in 2020. He put the ginormous property available. His explanation: he'd wedded a young lady from Canada. Their winter home is in Arizona, and they now spend the majority of their time in British Columbia. He simply no longer makes use of the ranch. The farm hasn't sold at this point. Yet Neil dropped his asking cost to $37.5 million. He is still regarded as one of South Dakota's wealthiest individuals. What might you put your lottery rewards in? Tell us in the remarks. Jason Fry from Florida, is the sort of individual you'd call diligent. Before he scored that sweepstakes, he was maintaining 3 sources of income: pouring cement, digging wells, and functioning as a barkeep around evening time. However, even with all that work, he had basically no cash. In point of fact, it was getting so bad that he was about to lose everything. With a second child on the way, you don't want that. Jason was really anxious 3 days before Christmas. That may have prompted him to purchase a lottery ticket that day, despite the fact that he almost never did so. Jason has only purchased a few lottery tickets in his life, but it's good that he made the decision to do so this time. Short term, all Jason's cash issues completely vanished. A $47 million jackpot was awarded to the winner of that lottery ticket. Jason did take advantage of his new wealth by impulsively purchasing a house, a boat, a motorcycle, a Mustang, and a house. However, after his spending spree, he quickly realized he wasn't being smart and switched to a very different kind of spending. Instead, he started investing in a business. He bought a golf driving range to start, which earns him roughly $300,000 a year. He then decided to buy a Battery Plus franchise store in Fort Myers after teenage lottery winners typically lose their money first. They generally don't contemplate their future, and that implies they spend their cash on the most ridiculous things until they have nothing left. Robert Sello wasn't one of those youngsters. He lived in Brooklyn. Yet his family wasn't extremely rich. He generally needed to be an electrical designer. However, he was at that point 18 years of age, and his family didn't have the cash to pay for his examinations so he could fit the bill for a truly amazing job. He had basically acknowledged that he'd have to go into an alternate profession when he purchased a $2 scratch-off ticket. He had no clue about that such a straightforward buy would change his life. He won $1,000 per week until the end of his life, $48,000 a year, prior to charges. Assuming you're imagining that Maine, the large bonanzas have a genuine effect, you're off base. That implied that Robert could pay for his investigations so he can turn into an electrical specialist, like he had envisioned. And that is precisely the exact thing he did with the cash. His folks didn't need to stress such a huge amount over him any longer, and he finished his capabilities. Even a little lottery win can assist with peopling carry on with the existence they generally cared about. Make sure to check out the link in the description below if you want to play the lottery from the convenience of your own home. It's quick and simple. Yancey Hicks. On the off chance that you feel that Robert is the main individual who turned his life around with a little success, you're off base. That list can now include Yancey Hicks. The Illinois State Lottery jackpot went to Yancey. It wasn't a lot of money. The bonanza was just a single million. Yet that is all that anyone could need to make another life on the off chance that you spend it carefully, which is precisely the exact thing Yancey did before the success. He had been working at McDonald's for a very long time, and throughout that time, he had fantasized about one day becoming his own boss. It didn't appear as though that was truly going to occur until his lottery win. From that point forward, he had the means to purchase his own tram eatery. It was an excellent acquisition. The cafe was a colossal achievement, and is as yet bringing in cash today. Yanthi Foligar? And here's another young person who resisted the pattern and really put away their cash astutely as opposed to spending it on dumb stuff. When Yanthi Foligar was just 18, she was living in England's Cumbria. She was a waitress at the time of her big win, making less than the minimum wage, but she had always wanted to be a lawyer. She'd purchased an Euro Millions ticket and heard there were a couple of victors. However, she didn't think she was one of them. What could be compared to a Powerball? She'd won the big stake, as I referenced. She was one of a small bunch of victors who shared the £102 million bonanza. Yanti's common just bested £7 million, or around $6 million. That is an insane measure of cash for an 18-year-old to oversee. She was chiefly stressed over losing her ticket, however, and spent ages concealing it around the house. At long last, she worked up the determination to take it in and gather her rewards when the cash was in her financial balance. She definitely understood how to manage it. She needed to require a year to travel, and the objective she picked was Egypt. Yet that was her main extreme buy. She assisted her folks with resigning early and, surprisingly, got them a house. She additionally supplanted her 10-year-old passage with another vehicle, yet it wasn't a thing showy. Then she paid for her examinations to turn into a legal counselor, like she envisioned. She chose to reside like a typical understudy. Yet she expected to open her own regulation for one day. Her millions would permit her to do that. From that point forward, she stayed under the radar sources, saying she's quite possibly of the most extravagant individual in the UK are lying yet. That doesn't mean she's lost all her cash. More dependable sources say she's presently worth regarding £10 million. That is, £3 million more than she won. I surmise that implies her vocation as a legal advisor is working out in a good way. So that was a brilliant venture. Paul and Sue Rosenau are now known as Paul and Sue Rosenau. When Sue wasn't being a stay-at-home mom, she worked at a research institute, while Paul operated heavy machinery. They were really blissful until around 5 years before the lottery win, when their family experienced a tremendous misfortune. Their 2-year-old grandkid, Michaela, was determined to have crab sickness. Many individuals have close to zero insight into this horrendous infection since it's so interesting. However, this extreme neurological condition predominantly influences children and babies. And death is almost always the result. There's no fix. Sadly for the Rosenau family, all they could do was sit back and watch as their beloved granddaughter passed away from this terrible illness. Paul saw 5 years later that the Powerball jackpot in the United States had set a record with $180.1 million. He just incidentally played the lottery. However, he figured he should have a go. He sort of disregarded it until the draw came on while they were staring at the television. Paul went to get a ticket while Sue yelled the numbers to him when he got once again into the parlor they were perusing. Out the Powerball number, it matched. Paul told Sue they'd won. However, she didn't really accept that he deceived her by expressing that previously. Yet Paul continued to demand in the long run. Sue said they could go check the numbers since they didn't have the web at home. They needed to drive the entire way to Sue's office to figure out it merited the drive. Paul had won the big stake. Fortunately, Paul had a bookkeeper companion who had the option to exhort them. They chose to pick the single amount to assist them with resigning early, and they brought back home $88 million. They could never have been more energized. They knew precisely exact thing they needed to do with all that money, and it didn't have anything to do with chateaus or showy vehicles. As a matter of fact, they didn't actually move out of their home. They continued to carry on with their lives. Very much like before, they took a minuscule part of the cash to ensure they could reside serenely in their retirement. They likewise went on somewhat more for an outing to Hawaii, and a family excursion to Disneyland with her kids and one grandkid, yet it was the grandkid that wouldn't have the option to go that they were contemplating most. They knew precisely exact thing they needed to do with their millions. They established the tradition of Heavenly Messenger's establishment to pay tribute to their late grandkid Michaela. The establishment is devoted to financing examination into the treatment and conceivable remedy for crab sickness in children. The information on the best way to treat the horrendous sickness has progressed much farther than it would have without them. Paul said they could try and be a couple of years from tracking down a genuine solution for the illness. The couple said they had forever been completely content with their lives, and they didn't feel like they required the cash. They said that knowing that it could make others' lives better made them feel much happier. Indeed, assuming that satisfies them, they should be blissful in light of the fact that they've certainly worked on individuals' lives. Soon, they might even be able to say that, like their granddaughter, they saved the lives of thousands of babies. I have no idea what this means, if that is not a wise use of your lottery winnings. Thanks for watching Gossip Now.